I'll oddly introduce myself as the last speaker for the night. Um, and we'll get right into it. And then we'll finish off with questions for everyone at the end as a bit of a panel discussion. So over to me, I guess. So let's get into it. Great Victorian Fish Count. For those of you that did just kind of jump on tonight and had no idea what it is, maybe you've never done it, never heard of it before, a little tagline for the Great Victorian Fish Count is the dive that counts. Although I guess these days it's also the snorkel that counts. It's just that's less snappy, let's face it. So it's been running for about 16 years and counting. I'll try not to do too many puns. Sorry. What it really does is it captures a snapshot of the fish within Victoria's coastal waters. And the fish that we've chosen, there's 35 species, including 10 species of sharks and rays. And they were selected really because they are kind of not commercially targeted in any meaningful way. And so there's not a lot of data on them. So that's what we wanted to learn a little bit more about their ecology and where they're kind of appearing. And basically what we have is that a series of like clubs and community groups will join in each year, and we do encourage them to adopt, say, like a regular site. You can do as many places as you want, but it's always nice to have kind of that ongoing data from a few locations around Victoria so that we can have this comparable data set going on for, as you've seen, quite a few years. Last year was an interesting year. I think that's probably a massive understatement, but we'll go with that. We really had no guarantees about this time last year that we'd be able to even go ahead with Great Victorian Fish Count, and guess what? It's been pretty similar this year. But last year, I can definitely say that I was well and truly blown away by the support from our community groups and our dive clubs. Our fish counters really did rise to the challenge of 2020, and I'm sure you can do it again in 2021. For a couple of quick stats, we had 25 groups complete 56 surveys all around the state, and actually ended up being one of our biggest counts per survey ever. So I have to say a big thank you to everybody who got involved last year. You did a really great job. For anyone who doesn't actually know what the count is, what we do is we get people in the water with these dive slates being illustrated in the photo just there, with good little illustrations of our 25, I guess, bony fish and our 10 sharks and rays. They mark off things in kind of increasing abundance categories as they see them. So a few fish, a few more fish, and then quite a lot. And in the end, you get this survey sheet and you fill it out and you give me all the auxiliary data and how many people were doing it. And then it goes into the Atlas of Living Australia, which, as Shannon said, was this online platform. So it's a thing that researchers and the public and marine managers can access. So it's automatically going in there, and it's a fantastic resource. What we do with the data is once we've got it all, we'll collate it at the end, and we can have some, I guess, we can have a bit of fun with the auxiliary data, so we can find out how many people, say, did a survey using scuba, which is still the most common, I guess, method for doing the survey. But we are seeing a bit of an increase in both snorkeling and kind of combination events where you get a few more, I guess, like family groups and school groups and stuff out to do like scuba and snorkeling. And the last couple of years, we've had a bit of fun with virtual fish counts. So using the underwater camera at Pope's Eye in Port Phillip Bay, in the Port Phillip Heads Marine National Park, which is a really cool resource, and it will be back online for fish count this year. So we're pretty excited about that because it has been quite a fun way to, I guess, bring the reef to people that kind of can't get out there themselves. What we find every year pretty similarly is that we have actually quite a lot of surveys take place in a marine national park or sanctuary. I believe it's something like 5% of our water, Shannon can probably correct me or not on that, being protected waters, but we have about 30% of our surveys taking place in these protected areas each year, so that's really nice. And I think people do get to really experience our unique and diverse ecosystems when they do a fish count within protected waters. We get some data on the habitat survey, and these are like useful points of reference for us if we're trying to work out some trends that we're seeing. So we can see, the kinds of habitats and also the vegetation type. And this mixed algae vegetation type, which was recorded in 91% of all of our surveys, that's kind of indicative of where people are actually surveying and that kind of reef system that we've really been championing like the whole night. So just a few basic stats there. The main data ends up being this kind of thing where we're looking at the percentage of the surveys that each of our species were recorded in and the abundance that you see them in. So for this year, and I think basically every year since the count started, it's the blue throat wrasse that has come in on top for being the most spotted fish. And they are quite, I guess, an easily recognizable fish. Both the males and the females do have these really bright bands. And they're quite a large fish for our waters, I suppose, and they're pretty noticeable, but they're also quite abundant. So not a surprise to see them there. Kind of heading towards the other end of the scale, things like our herring kale and our silver sweep don't kind of occur as often in our surveys. That's not necessarily saying that they're not there. And that's why we're interested to look at the kind of background data we were talking about. And things like the herring kale, they can be a little bit hard to spot because they're quite quick. If anyone's actually seen just like this blur of blue shoot past them if they're on a reef, like could have been a herring kale. Do the same thing for the sharks and rays. So you can see there again, obviously our smooth stingrays, again, these big, beautiful, relatively slow-moving things that, aren't particularly shy. So it's not really a surprise that we're seeing them in quite a lot of our surveys. On the other end of things, we've got things like the very carpet shark, which again are kind of more of like a hidden species, and they tend to kind of hang out, in shelters during the day. So we're probably not overly surprised that these are the kind of the trends that we're seeing. What we can do is we can start throwing up a lot of covers. We really are working on a way to present this a little bit more in a visually appealing way as the years go on, but we can compare year to year. And so you can see there's a bit of noise, but again, in terms of the sort of more commonly seen fish, it's been pretty consistent over the years. And these are kind of some of the lesser seen fish. And again, it's, there's a bit of variation, but fairly similar trends. Sharks and rays, we've actually only been recording them since 2017, so we've got fewer years to work with, but still seeing kind of similar numbers across a lot of the species there. So one thing we do sort of say is at the end of a fish count, we go, okay, so are there any kind of surprises? Are we seeing like a little bit of a drop off in fish that we have normally seen in, reasonable abundance over the years? Why is that? And the other thing we can do is we can put a call out to you people to do the fish count for the next year and say, look, these are the fish that certainly, keep a bit of an eye out for. If you have cameras, that's great, because if you can take a photo of those fish, it certainly helps us with the confidence in the data. These two in particular, really, really interested if someone does see them. They are the elephant fish in the top there and the harlequin fish. Now, the harlequin fish, we do not believe is actually, I guess, we think it's functionally extinct in Victoria, so it hasn't been seen in Victoria for many, many years. So it's more that we put it out there to keep it on people's radar. It's a really interesting fish. It is present along the Great Southern Reef and other areas. It just hasn't been recorded in Victoria for many, many years. So if you do think you see one, please try and get a photo of it, because it would make our lives a lot easier in verifying that that occurrence. The one in the top there, the elephant fish, hasn't been recorded in a fish count yet, but that footage and photo was actually taken at Blairgowrie at the start of the year. So they are around, or they can be around. It sort of depends on their breeding, because they'll come into shallower waters for breeding. But yeah, they do exist. It's a really weird looking fish, I'll give you that. So you're probably not going to confuse it with anything else. And yeah, please do keep an eye out for that one. If you really want to get into the numbers and sort of sit there and pour through everything, we do have all of our fish count reports up on our website. So check out that link. I'm sure Cade can throw up the links in the chat. And again, thanks to Shandy and also to India, who helped us put together the 2020 report, because it's looking really nice. Every year for the fish count, we kind of select a feature fish, the fishy face of the count. And so last couple of years. Again, we've had some pretty great Southern Reef staples there, and we decided that this year, no different. We're going to go with the Senator Wrasse. We needed it. We felt like we certainly did, and we hoped that maybe other people would appreciate kind of the injection of color that this particular fish could give to the count and also to the t-shirts. So this is the logo. You'll see kind of the male wrasse is going to be the one on the t-shirts because we are limited in our colors for our shirts. But we thought it kind of encapsulates this idea of, the Great Southern Reef being this interconnected system, and it really is right across the Southern Reef. And we want to kind of celebrate that connectivity, especially in Victoria, where we are hopefully, returning to that connectivity, and we're going to be able to get out back into the nature that we love and miss, and also connect with other people that enjoy it as well. So here's looking up to that, I guess. For a bit of a brief rundown of how to fish count in 2021, well, we're going to do the same thing we did in 2020. And for 2020, our fishy face was the scaly fin. So we're going to say, do as the scaly fin do. Explore your home turf. We probably will be able to move around a little bit more than we were in 2020, but we do still, as I said at the start, encourage you guys to kind of adopt a local area that you can go back to time and time again. It's not to say that you can't explore all the coast, by all means, but that's just kind of where this is coming in. For those of you that can't host an event, we do actually list public events on our website. They'll be going up next week, so keep an eye out for that, and you might be able to join in somewhere near you. For those of you that aren't sick to death of screens and aren't about to throw your computer in the bin, we are going to do some virtual counts again this year. So watch this space. Effectively, what we like to do is we'll call them fish count, fish count Thursdays, fish count lunchtimes, and we're just going to pick some times during the basically middle of the day, middle of the week. So you can come and join us on a lunch break or whatever, and we'll just have a bit of a chat while we watch the fish go by. When you guys are out there, obviously follow the restrictions. They're there for a reason. We want this to work. So everyone else has had fun with these keep 1.5 meter things apart. So we thought we'd do it too. If any of you have ever seen an adult Western blue grouper, that's about 1.5 meters. So keep that apart. Obviously, when you're in the water, social distance, it's pretty easy. And the third one, inspired by our stars of the reef cam, is don't be camera shy. So Scaly Fin love cameras. We hope you love cameras. We can actually help by lending you some cameras. If you want to give one of the Olympus Tufts, which are a really good underwater camera, a try, we can loan it out to you. And we do, again, every year, really encourage, probably now borderline beg, that if you get an unusual sighting on one of your surveys, please try and get a photo of it and please send it in. If you think it's a fish that probably shouldn't actually be there, we're partnered with RedMap. So we do encourage you to send that there, and that can help RedMap track basically species range shifts due to climate change. If you just don't know what you've taken a photo of, but you're pretty sure it's not one of the fish count species, you can always add it to our Marine Life of Victoria iNaturalist project, and one of the really enthusiastic iNat experts or just general users will be able to help you ID it. The other thing I'm going to do before I wrap up is a shameless plug for the October sea slug census, which is not a fish count thing, but I am hoping that within everyone's current restriction levels and everything, that if you can get out to the coast on the weekend of the 22nd to the 25th of October, and you are having a bit of a look around and you find a sea slug, take a photo of it, send it in to us. October is usually a pretty active time for our Victorian nudibranchs, and this is obviously another project that I'm quite passionate about. I know that not everyone is going to be able to get out there this time around. Don't worry, there'll be another census in the future. There'll be plenty more. But if you are interested, again, the details are all there on our website, so check that out. And lastly, if you want to get involved in the fish count this year, you can contact myself or Kate, or if you just want to know what else we're doing in ReefWatch, especially coming into, I guess, a bit more of a open summer, he's hoping, and a few more projects in the pipeline for the future. So that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it. I know I power through these things because we run out of time every time. But I did just want to leave it at the fact that I am missing all of your fishy faces. Really hanging out with you guys at the fish count is, yeah, one of the highlights of my job. And I really hope that we can get out and see you all again sometime soon.